and welcome back to EA Tarot. I thank you guys for joining in on another tarot-ish video that we have today. I have a super special deck that I'm going to share with you guys. I want to do a full walkthrough of the deck, and while I'm doing that walkthrough, I'm also going to be giving you guys my perspective and review and working with that deck. And so we're going to touch on all things related to the box and the guidebook and cardstock and cards, and then most importantly, and what everyone wants to know, is how to work with them. And so I'm just really excited to be able to offer this today. Now, before we get into it, before we get into it, this is a deck that I think requires a trigger warning of some kind. Now, we do have, it's a fully photographic deck, and we do have full frontal feminine nudity. And so if that's something that you're uncomfortable with, or you're unsure if you want to bring that into your day, then you can use the timestamps that I always have below, and you can kind of jump around as best as you can while watching a walkthrough. And so some of it may be hit and miss with some of the cards, but it's a deck that's really, really personal to myself and my journey and my experience this far. And so it means a lot to me, and I am just so thankful to be able to share it with you guys. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, grab a cup of something and get cozy and join me. Today I am sipping on my apple cinnamon herbal tea. It's perfect for this deck. I mean, personally, I feel like this deck requires you to slow down. And so that's what we're going to be doing today. It's going to be, a little bit of a slower paced video. I really want this imagery and the cards to, stick out to you, and for you to absorb them to the best of your ability at this point in your life when you're watching this video. So I'm going to stop rambling, and we're just going to get right into it. So today we have the 3 Black Moon Shadow deck. This is a deck created by Madson. He's on Instagram at Burning Paper Hearts. As always, I'm going to put everything in the description below. So I'm going to put the link to a shop where you can purchase the deck, his Instagram, and all the goods that are related specifically to this Oracle deck. I am aware that Chris has a couple other decks out there, and I also believe he's in the process of creating a new one that is to be released later on this year. I am super excited for that. I'm also excited to get my hands on his Witch's Tarot, which, from what I understand, is like the same layout as this deck, and it looks generally the same photographic imagery with the feminine focus. And so that is really fits my aesthetic. And so yes, I'm going to stop rambling about that too. Let's just get right into it. Okay, so immediately when we get our box, and you get the cards, it has a very nice matte finish. And I really appreciate that. It feels luxurious. Some of this is, a bit puffed out, like it was imprinted on the deck, which I really like that, because it does add this tactile experience to handling the deck itself and the cards. And so we also have a really nice magnetic latch. I know you can hear that, that's intense, and I love it because I know my cards aren't going to go anywhere. We do have this triple moon goddess, which I think, if I am remembering correctly, it's kind of like his logo or his trademark that he puts on his decks. And so we do have it again right here, and I really like it. on the back of it, I'm going to read you a little bit. Well, I guess I'll just read what's on the back of it so you can better understand this deck's purpose. And so it says, 3 Black Moons is a shadow deck created by artist Chris Madson. Using strong visual imagery along with a guidebook, this special oracle deck assists you through difficult emotions, trauma work, finding clarity in your relationships or direction, and guidance for life. 3 Black Moons, dark and beautiful feminine nature, gazes into the macabre as you connect to the deepest parts of your soul in a sacred ritual, sometimes known as shadow work. And so as you can see, this deck is very heavy on shadow work aspects. And so that's exactly what I use it for. And I think that's how you're going to get the most out of it. And so I really like this box. I like the image he chose for the front of it. I think it's really, really beautiful. Another thing with the box, you guys, is like these stars and moons, or I guess I associate them as stars. They're just little black dots, but it's reminiscent of stars to me, I guess. And I really, really like that. I think it's cute. Whenever publishers and creators put that energy into the inside of the box, it really sticks out to me. And it's something that many have the opportunity to do, but not everybody takes that opportunity. And so when a deck has this, I really like it. Yeah. Here's Guidebook and then cards. And then you can see here on the inside, it says 3 Black Moons, and we have, again, this triple goddess moon energy, and I love it. I'm going to set that off to the side really quick. Let's see. Okay. So before we get into the cards, I kind of want to talk a little bit about the guidebook. Now, I like the guidebook. It's very consistent with the box, and so the theme of it is tied pretty strongly throughout the deck, and I do really, really appreciate that. Now, our guidebook is it is sweet and to the point, and I can appreciate that. Now, I know that some people will say when it comes to shadow work or shadow work style decks that they enjoy a bit more meat to it. However, I am a very intuitive person, and even when it comes to shadow work, yes, a framework is nice to have, but it's not something that is always needed, because kind of once I have a little bit of a jumping off point, which is what this gives you, we have, the cards and a little explanation about them. And so once I get that, that's purely a jumping off point for me to further dive into myself. If I have a guidebook that is so literary heavy, it is hard for me to kind of separate their words from my emotions. And so because of that, I really appreciate his style in this guidebook. Guidebook is broken into 4 different parts. Now, what I enjoy doing with this deck, and it's not necessarily indicated anywhere in the guidebook itself, but I like to associate the different parts of the deck with elements and then relating that back to the tarot. Again, this is just an oracle deck. It's not a tarot deck, but for me, tarot is a large part of my practice, if not, 98% of it. I relate it back to the suits of the tarot. And so here within this shadow deck, we do have emotions, we have archetypes, we have rituals, and then we have instruments. And so here's what I do. I interpret the cards as almost adding an elemental layer to them. So emotions to me is obviously water. And then if I'm going to tie that back to the tarot, it's going to give me cups energy. archetypes in this deck, I relate back to the element of air. And if I were to relate that even further into the tarot, I would be viewing this as like swords. Rituals is another part of this deck, and I relate it back to the element of fire. And if I were to add this extra layer into my readings, which I do, I would relate it back to wands. And then lastly, we have instruments, which are like physical items that these models are holding in the book and in the cards. And I relate that obviously back to the earth element, adding that extra layer into my reading, and also further relating it back to pentacles in terms of the tarot. Now, I know that was probably a lot to digest. And so as we go through the cards, I'll tell you guys, I'll kind of try and point out when we have, emotions, archetypes, rituals, and instruments that are being used in the cards. Now, this is where I think the deck would really shine if you do have his, oh my gosh, his tarot deck, and I'm totally drawing a blank on it. I want to say it's like the Witch's Tarot. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. But if you have that deck, like adding this oracle to that tarot deck and relating it back to the elements, I think would add this really cool layer that we wouldn't otherwise have. And so I'm going to stop rambling about the guidebook. I love the guidebook. It gives me a solid jumping off point, and there is not much more that I want when it comes to shadow work, because it is so individualized and it is so, intertwined with self that too much of a guidebook can really muddy the waters for me. I'm done. Let me get into the cards. Okay, here we have our cards. They have this beautiful gold edging that I really love. Now, for the most part, it is a fairly black, white, and grayscale deck. Again, we have our, triple moon right here, and I really, really like that with a little bit of gold embellishing. And to me, that gold really makes the deck pop. Like, it makes the imagery come alive in a sense. And so we're just gonna get right into it. I know it can be a little bit probably difficult to see, and so I'll, occasionally say some of the words that are on the cards, but for the most part, this is a stunning deck, you guys. Like, this deck, it means so much to me. Here we have Loss, and I do really love the font that he uses. I think it works so well, and the cardstock is amazing. It has this like matte, almost satin finish, and you have to forgive me, like I'm not the best at describing cardstock, but I do really like the way that this feels. It feels durable, it feels sturdy, and it's fairly easy to shuffle. It's not the easiest deck that I have to shuffle, but again, this is a deck that requires me to slow down. Like, I physically need to come to this deck when I have the opportunity and the space to explore myself further. And so this isn't a quick shuffle and pull a card and go on with your day. Like, this is a very intentional drawing a card when you have the opportunity to write about it. And so I hope that makes sense. Here we have Shield, Worship. This is probably one of my most favorite cards, and it's so hard because I really resonate with this imagery. Like, if you know anything about me, you know that a photographic deck is my jam. Like, I love a solid photographic deck, and that's what this gives me. And so I resonate with it so much. It says the snake, the heart. And for me, this is a deck that I feel like women experience in the comfort and solitude of their own corner of the world. Like, this is not something that we are outwardly expressing because it is frowned upon by most of society. And so this is a deck that, like, it's a behind closed doors. Like, if you want to know what it's like to be a woman or to identify fully as a feminine woman, like, this is that experience summed up into a beautiful art package, an art deck. We have strength, protection. This is also a deck that I feel like you can come to when, like, I love this anger card. Oh my gosh, with that blood and like the yellow orangish background. I love it so much. Now, this is a deck that I also, it's something you can come to when you are in an emotional fit and you have your black eyeliner is running down your face and you are livid beyond comparison. And you can come to it and it'll literally ground you back into who the fuck you are. And for me, that is so intentional and so important. I really love this deck so much. Now, I know some people don't necessarily care for like the white card backgrounds, I guess, and borders. However, I really like it. I think it works really well for the imagery. And I think, again, because his tarot deck has, from what I understand, a more black aspect to it and, you know, cards and borders, like, this would really pop. And so maybe that was his intention when creating the deck. Maybe it wasn't, but I like it. I like the lighter colors here. Like, I love this sword card. I think the imagery here is just so beautiful. I love how he incorporated, you know, nature and like outside elements into the deck. And I think that's also where I get a bit of my elemental associations, or how I at least choose to like work with the deck. It's not all like in studio art and photography. So I appreciate that extra element to it. Like, I love this gathering card. Give me a second. I'm gonna grab a sip of tea. Okay. Like, I love that he chose like daylight for this, because when we feel of like, you know, women gathering or women exploring their sensuality, sexuality, witchhood, anything, like, that's so often shrouded in like the darkness of night. And so I love it. I think he knew exactly what he was doing. We have the crow. When he created this deck, burn. Sometimes the cards are a little bit stickier for me, but you guys, I don't mind it. This is like hardcore Stevie Nicks to me. Yeah, I love it. I mean, I don't feel like I can stop saying that. A sacrifice. Now, my experience in working with the deck has been nothing shy of, it has literally transformed my chemical makeup of my body. And I don't even think I can fully comprehend what I mean by that statement, but it is so intense. And I, by nature, am a very intense person. And so I really, really love it. I do. Like, if you need to feel feminine rage, or if you have felt feminine rage, or what it's like to have your body betray you, or you've experienced some of these really difficult aspects of, the feminine experience, I think that this deck will be nothing shy of a soulmate for you. Like, this is a soulmate deck for me. As a mother to 3 young girls, like, it means the world to me when I can help them to further understand what it means to be feminine and what it means to be a woman in today's world. But because we have that and we have this deck and it is created by a man, like, I think that just goes to show you again how much of an artist Chris is, for him to be able to capture something that is so intimate with the female experience. Here we have anxiety and her face is blurred. I don't know. Like, knowledge, and we have this huge tree, and trees hold so much wisdom. So much. Vessel. Wand. This is part of our, like, instruments. And so, like, if I were reading this, as a clarifier to a tarot deck, or I just wanted to pull it as a single card to focus on, I could almost relate this back to a pentacle suit and kind of just add that extra layer into my reading. And so it works for me. Like, I really like it. I'm sure that might not be everyone's cup of tea or something that they're comfortable with, but it works. I love the sun card here. Like, she looks like an absolute sun goddess. I also find this image really intense, and it completely caught me off guard, and I love it. I love everything about this. Here we have hate, and I have female clients, and for women who have experienced incredibly traumatic things regarding their body or their body being taken advantage of, it's so easy to feel ashamed and so much hatred towards ourselves. And so again, like, this is amazing for working with those specific traumas. The Queen, this has been like my stalker card in this deck. I feel like every time I pull it out, she's right there. And I love when a deck can give me that. And not every deck does, but when they do, I do genuinely appreciate it, because for me, it just signifies like an immediate connection. And so I really like it. I love this card. I love her hat. I love all of it. The Enchantress. Magic. So here we have like rituals. And you could even bring this into ritual. Like, if that's something you do and you want to add this layer into your witchhood or your magic or your rituals, like, you absolutely could, and make, one of these cards or a couple of them a key focus. And I think that again would allow for another layer. Here we have divination. I love all these birds. Dagger. Lantern. And I think it's one of like these images, or this image specifically, it just immediately connects me into like my ancestral witchhood, like what it is to be fully feminine. And I feel like this is something that no matter the person, no matter the feminine archetype, or the feminine person in your life or in your lineage or throughout history, pop culture, whatever it is, like these are all universal experiences to me. And so working with this deck has been nothing shy of amazing. It has been illuminating. Here we have Candle, and she's holding this like candelabra. It's really, really pretty. Scythe. And then Hourglass. And so this has been the full walkthrough. Chris was so kind to send this my way and allow me the opportunity to be able to review and hold this deck. And it's not going anywhere. I feel like as time goes on, it's just going to get sweeter and sweeter to work with. Like there's going to be elements and layers that I continue to add into this deck and into my own personal associations with the cards. Real quick before I hop off, I'm just going to pick a single card and we will find it in the guidebook so you guys can kind of see, what one of the messages in there looks like. Trauma. I don't know if this could get any more perfect. So here I have found it, and I'm going to kind of hold it together so I can read it for you and you guys can see the image fairly well. So it says, trauma lives in your body beneath memory and scars. It's strange how something so invisible can cause so much pain and ruin before you even know what's happened. It's the demon that keeps you tethered in darkness, wreaking havoc on your body, on your life and body, until you find distance from the memory. Continue your shadow work and pay attention to dreams and triggers until truths are unearthed. So just that paragraph gives me such a jumping off point for me to further explore specific trauma, or how trauma is currently manifesting in my life and in my body. And so again, like, I know he doesn't have much in the guidebook, but what he does have is very intentional, and it's very it's kind of all you need, in my opinion, because the imagery on these cards is so evocative, and it creates visceral reactions. I think that this is a perfect amount of language to get us started and to further explore specific traumas, or specific things that we have going on inside our body. But that's it for today, you guys. I really, really, really thank you for being here. I thank you for sharing your time with me. I am so grateful for you guys. I am grateful to Chris for sending me this deck. It is, like I said, it's nothing shy of amazing. I don't take it lightly. My work with it is very intentional. It is very vulnerable. And I think if you allow yourself the opportunity to break down preconceived ideas of yourself and your self-worth and your self-image, like, this is something that I think you will get so much use out of. And at the very least, if all you do is collect cards and collect, specific photographic imagery and decks like this is just a phenomenal thing to have in a collection. Like, this is a stunning artwork collection. And so I thank you for being here. I thank you for joining in. And I hope you guys have an absolute amazing rest of your day.